Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Beyond Second Cognition. I'm Beall. The topic of this discussion is, are you a seeker? What are you seeking? And this video was titled, hopefully, to draw some people to this channel so they can start getting themselves de-educated from the New Age, fanciful, mystical doctrines. Because the fact of the matter is, all of those pursuits are going to lead absolutely nowhere. The mystical experience was a fabrication of the Hapim mind virus, connected to a Hapim cell network, a hive off-planet. All the mystical experiences reported throughout human history have been fabrications, mental illusions, and hallucinations produced through artificially inducing a feeling of love in the physiology of the person infected with this virus. When people use mind-altering drugs like ayahuasca or magic mushrooms or peyote or mescaline or LSD or MDA or DMT, seeking this mystical experience, what that actually did was lower your cognitive defense mechanisms to allow this virus to connect to this hive virus network, to provide false illusions of getting access to the wisdom of the universe and all this other kind of stuff that is just, fills all the mystical traditions. This hive collective has been destroyed. The hive cells within yourself have been destroyed. So all of your mystical ideas are going to come to nothing. I don't care how many drug trips you take. I don't care how much meditation you do trying to find this inner sense of divine love. It's not going to happen. Because the inducing agent, the Hapim Hive Collective, no longer exists. And you're chasing a dead-end road. There are going to be no more mystical experiences induced by this hive infection. No mystical conversations with God, because that God didn't exist. It was all a fabricated illusion to toy with people's minds, to keep them slaves to mystical traditions and always chasing rainbows and always being frustrated because they don't get anything more than one or two momentary glimpses of enlightenment, which they can't use as a human being, because as soon as the drugs wear off or as soon as the little mystical love experience goes away, you wind up being the same egotistical asshole you are when you started it. To think that you're going to find a mystical, magical solution in what you're seeking, you're going to find disappointment. I don't say this to be mean or hateful. I'm just telling you what is. You're free to seek whatever it is that you feel you're seeking, but if you're going after the mystical boondoggles, you're wasting your time. How many of you have been doing this 20 or 30 or 40 years, seeking that mystical understanding, and yet it's always elusive, it's always out of your hand, it's always around the next corner, but you just can't get your hands on it? Do you want to know why that is? It's because it's a fake, it's a fraud. It's a doctrinal carrot to lure you forward into the belief system, hoping and wishing that maybe one day you will get magical and supernatural powers, or that you will rise to the fifth dimension. I hate to be the harbinger of bad news, folks, but it's not going to happen. It was never going to happen. It's just a belief system predicated on hope and wishful thinking. But if you want to be a seeker and continue to be a seeker, I ask you to sincerely ask yourself, what is it are you seeking? Are you seeking magical powers? Are you seeking to do magician's tricks so you can show off to your friends? To be the healer so you can save the world? What is driving your seeking? Do you want to know truth, or do you just want to have fanciful illusions so you can show off to your friends? Because if it's truth you're looking for, then you're in the right place. If you're seeking mystical fantasy, then go back to the bullshit you've been reading all these years. It's never paid you off a single thing. Because the fact of the matter is, the spirit path is a fabrication. The only spirit there ever was in that regard was the Hapim virus cell and the Hapim virus hive, luring people into their clutches. So you give up your waking consciousness and your waking powers to an illusionary dream. There is no such thing as a spiritual process. This is a psychological process. If you want to find spiritual balance, you're not going to find it meditating and trying to harmonize positive and negative thinking in yourself and all the other stuff the doctrines sell to you. Balance comes when you neutralize the programs that this virus induced in your mind and your body. The things that drive your fears, your anxieties, your frustration because you can't find enlightenment. Because the enlightenment these doctrines peddle does not exist. It never existed. People interpreted falsely created ideologies to keep you ever frustrated and anxious over not achieving your enlightenment because this virus fed on your emotions. And while you were frustrated and anxious and wishing for these mystical experiences, the virus was feeding on every ounce of energy that you put out and emitted in your frustration, not being able to achieve its mystical enlightenment. You've been used as a food supply to a virus that lured you on with promises and wishful thinking and fed on your frustration and anxiety because you could never find it. Or if you did find it, briefly, you could never keep it. It was nothing but a remembered experience that left you even more anxious to try and repeat it. So if this is what you're seeking, I can tell you authoritatively, you're not going to find it because the hive is dead. The virus is dead in your body and across the multiverse. There is nothing to deliver the mystical experience anymore. It can't happen. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to continue seeking a boondoggle? Do you want to continue to lie to yourself that there is something real in this fantasy? Because that's the choice you face. If you're tired of chasing the phantoms in the fantasy and want to know how to advance your consciousness, which has nothing to do with spirit, it has to do with advancing human consciousness beyond how it presently functions, then you're at the right place. You're on the right channel, because this is where you're going to find truth. Not the bullshit, not the lures, not the mystical woo-woo. Nothing to induce your anxiety other than your desire to finally find what you're looking for. And it's not going to be easy. There's no golden nugget. There's no magic bullet. There's no magic pill. If you want this conscious freedom, you're going to have to work for it. As much as you've worked on all this mystical stuff all these years, you're going to have to work equally hard to unravel all the beliefs that you've bought into that makes you think that mysticism or ascending to the fifth dimension or creating materializations through occult practices or whatever else, levitation, there's a good one. If you believe that shit is possible, then you can go back to the channels you were watching, because we don't teach that stuff here. We teach pragmatism, cognitive psychological advancement, and growth in your consciousness. If you're interested in that, then you might want to check out some of the videos on this channel or read some of our books. But if you want to keep chasing rainbows, well, thanks for listening and have fun with your rainbow chase. But for all of those here who are already doing the work, stay the course and don't give up on yourself.